An interesting thing about narcissists is they never feel at peace with themselves and they never feel at peace with the world. Narcissists know that they the way they interact with the world has to be done through this mask that they wear, this false self and these false attributes where they're feigning to be a certain persona that they're not. And narcissists primarily want to interact with the world through that false self. But because that false self is not real, and it takes them a lot of effort to keep the mask of that false self up, narcissists suffer from very severe anxiety all the time. And oftentimes, this anxiety that they experience, they try to project onto others so they kind of relieve their own anxiety. But the fact that narcissists have to operate on the basis of a fake persona, it creates a lot of anxiety in the narcissist, and it's easy to understand why. It creates a lot of anxiety because, first of all, it's not their real self, and because they're putting on this persona out there in the world, they know that at any point in time, people can see, a lot of people can see through them, and it's very easy for a lot of people to see through them. And the fear of being found out by people generally, not just romantic partners, but generally, is something that really terrifies the narcissist. The fear of being found out. And a lot of them won't, they're not, a lot of narcissists aren't self-aware. So it's not that they're thinking, oh, the people are going to find out that I'm a narcissist. No, being found out that they're phony, that they're fake, because narcissists know that they don't have a sincere bone in their body. So the thought that people might kind of see through their facade and see that they're very inconsistent inside, very unreliable, very just wobbly and fake. They feel those things about themselves, even though they try to convince themselves they're not a fake, that their false self is real. Deep down, they're always kind of getting hints and catching glimpses of who they really are. And because they try to hide that self from the outside world, from the world at large, they're terrified and they get very anxious because of the thought that people can see through them and the repercussions that can have. People might not want to do business with them anymore. People might not want to be their friends. People might want to break up with them. People might want to abandon them. All kinds of things, things that they don't want to happen. And another reason that narcissists really struggle with this kind of false self and keeping that up is because it takes a lot of energy. It takes a narcissist a lot of effort and a lot of energy to keep that false mask on. They're always trying to keep certain behaviors up that are very, very far from what they truly feel inside about themselves and people. They're always trying to behave in certain ways where, they're being internally inconsistent with themselves because they're trying to put on, a certain behavior that a third party observer might think, okay, they're decent, but there's always going to be cracks in the facade. There's always going to be cracks in the mask. And people with even a little bit of common sense and experience with disordered individuals will start to see through that person and say, you know what, just something doesn't check out about this person. Something just isn't quite right. So those two things, the fact that, they might be found out and the repercussions that could have, that causes the narcissist to feel a lot of anguish, that terrifies them. So that's one point. The other point is the amount of effort that it takes to kind of keep that mask up, to keep that false self up. It's draining for the narcissist. It's exhausting. And they, sometimes they're not doing anything, but they're completely exhausted. They get exhausted very easily, and they need to withdraw to kind of recover. Because all narcissists, there's no exception. All narcissists wear a mask, which is their false self, and they try to portray that as being their true selves to most people. Obviously, you have the occasional person, maybe children, maybe a spouse, who sees right through the narcissist mask and sees who they are. But for the most part, the narcissist tries to keep that mask on in face of society and people. and the risks that entails, and the amount of effort and energy that's expended to keep the mask up. It basically means that the narcissist, it's a huge burden on the narcissist. So yeah, just existing as a narcissist, just being a narcissist can be very exhausting. Their mind is constantly in overdrive because just so much to think about, just to kind of behave in a decent way to most people without being found out. So narcissists, yeah, they're chronically feeling fatigued, chronically feeling exhausted, chronically feeling anxious, and chronically worried that people might see through them. And one of the reasons they look so hard to find good supply is that good supply kind of offsets all that drainage of their energy. So good supply helps boost them up. Good supply helps convince them that their false mask is real, because good supply will kind of reinforce in the narcissist the things they want to believe about themselves. So that's one reason that narcissists are always looking for good supply, and it's really hard to find good supply. Good supply who doesn't see right through the narcissist at the beginning, because if somebody were to see through the narcissist at the beginning, they probably wouldn't want to have anything to do with them. So narcissists try really hard to find that good supply at the beginning. That good supply who's most likely willing to believe the good things that the narcissist wants them to believe, and who won't see through the cracks of the mask for some time to come. Narcissists really need supply, and a lot of it to offset the drainage of just their existence.